Have you ever felt your heart slam against your ribs? So hard you think it might break through. Not from fear, but from something worse. From betrayal so naked it leaves you standing still, unable to even breathe. That's what happened to me the night I showed up at her place with a bag of soup, flowers and ginger tea, because she told me she was too sick to leave her bed. You know the kind of sick where you imagine her curled up under blankets, pale, grateful for the care. That's what I thought I was walking into. Instead, I opened her door and walked straight into a scene I will never forget. For as long as I live, her sitting on the floor in her pajamas, laughing louder than I'd ever heard, surrounded by 3 guys, cards scattered across the carpet, and her shirt halfway off. Strip poker, with 3 men. While I stood there like an idiot holding a thermos of chicken noodle soup, I wish I could say I reacted instantly, slammed the door or screamed or threw the soup in her face. But no, for a second I was frozen. I think it's because my brain couldn't compute what my eyes were seeing. It was like walking into a dream that doesn't make sense. Only it wasn't a dream. It was the ugliest reality. I heard her voice before she saw me. "You're bluffing, don't even try it." She laughed, her words dripping with playful confidence. And then she turned, mid-laugh, and saw me standing there. The smile fell off her face so fast it was almost comical. Almost. The guys stopped too, cards in hand, shirts loose, beers half finished. One of them smirked, another looked down awkwardly, and the third just stared at me with wide eyes like he'd been caught in the middle of a crime scene. I set the bag down on the table beside me with more control than I felt, because my hands were shaking so bad I thought the soup would spill everywhere. "Soup," I said, my voice flat, "because you were sick." Her mouth opened and closed, and in that moment I knew she wasn't just caught. She was guilty. The words wouldn't come because there were no words that could turn what I was seeing into something innocent. "It's not what it looks like," she finally stammered, the most cliché of all excuses. "Really?" I asked, my voice still too calm. "Because it looks exactly like strip poker, with 3 guys while you told me you were too sick to even get out of bed." The room was thick with tension. One of the guys tried to lighten it with a joke, muttering, "Hey man, it's just a game," but the glare I shot him could have burned through steel. He shut up immediately. She stood fumbling with her shirt, her face red not from embarrassment but from exposure. She looked at me like I was the intruder in her world, not the other way around, and that's when it hit me hardest. She hadn't just cheated, she had invited me into her lie, told me she was sick, let me play the role of the caring boyfriend while she played cards with 3 half-drunk idiots in her living room. I didn't explode, I didn't cry, I didn't even yell. I just turned, opened the door and walked out. Behind me I heard her voice call my name, but I didn't. My feet carried me down the hallway, down the stairs, out into the night air that felt sharper than glass against my skin. You know what's strange? The hardest part wasn't what I saw in that moment. The hardest part came after, in the days that followed, when I started replaying everything. The excuses she'd made for not seeing me, the nights she was too tired, the times she said she just wanted to stay in and rest. All of it started connecting like puzzle pieces I had refused to put together, and when the picture finally formed, I realized it wasn't just one night of strip poker. It was a pattern, a lifestyle, a whole second life she was living behind my back. I thought about the kind of man I wanted to be in that situation. Did I want to sink into bitterness? Did I want to humiliate her back? Did I want revenge? Or did I want to rise above it? The truth is, I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't let her define me as the fool who brought soup to a liar. So I stayed silent. I didn't respond to her calls. I didn't answer her texts. Not even the angry ones where she accused me of overreacting. Overreacting, like finding your girlfriend playing strip poker with 3 guys while you thought she was bedridden with the flu, was somehow normal. But silence wasn't enough. I needed closure. And closure doesn't come from ignoring the wound. It comes from cleaning it out, even if it hurts. So I started pulling at every loose thread of our relationship, unraveling the lies. I asked questions I hadn't dared ask before. I checked timelines. I noticed contradictions, and piece by piece, I saw just how long she had been building this house of cards. And let me tell you this, it didn't take long for me to realize that night, with the poker game, wasn't an accident. It was her. The real her. And I had been in love with a mask. That's where part of me broke, but another part of me hardened. I decided that if she thought she could humiliate me in my role as the caring boyfriend, then she would learn what it felt like to have the truth pulled out into the light, where everyone could see it. Not through screaming or violence, but through exposure. Because lies rot in silence, but they crumble fast under daylight. And that right there is where my story turns, from heartbreak into strategy. From the man holding soup in the doorway, to the man holding the cards in his own hand for the first time. Because what I did next, that was the part she never saw coming. You want to know what happened next? All right, I'll tell you. But I'll warn you. It wasn't some clean little breakup. No neat goodbye where we both walked away. It was messier than that, darker than that. And yet in its own twisted way, it gave me a kind of clarity I'd never had before. Because once you see someone for who they really are, you can't unsee it. And once you've been humiliated like that, standing in a doorway with a bag of soup, while your girlfriend giggles half naked with 3 guys, you either let that shame bury you, or you use it to set fire to everything rotten in your life. The first few days after, she bombarded me. Call, messages, knocks on my door. At first they were apologies, frantic ones. It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. They're just friends. I was drunk. Lies. Stacked on lies. Each one weaker than the last. Then when I didn't respond, the tone shifted. Anger. Accusations. You're overreacting. You're acting like a child. You always blow things out of proportion. Classic gaslighting. Trying to twist my reality, until I doubted what I'd seen with my own eyes. But here's the thing, when you've already seen your lowest moment, when you've already stood in the middle of your worst humiliation, there's a strange strength that comes with it. I didn't doubt myself anymore. I knew what I'd seen. I knew what she... So I decided not to argue with her. Not to explain myself. Not to give her the satisfaction of pulling me back into her orbit. Instead, I planned, quietly, patiently. First I reached out to people I knew, friends, mutuals, even her co-workers, not to slander her, but to ask questions, to piece together the map of her double life. And sure enough, stories started surfacing. Times she'd stayed late at work, but was spotted at bars. Times she claimed she was with me when she wasn't. Rumors I had ignored before, suddenly sharpened into facts. She wasn't just reckless, she was strategic. Juggling lies the way some people juggle bills, hoping none of them came crashing down. But the night with the strip poker guys, that wasn't a mistake. That was who she really was when the mask came off. And I wanted her to see that mask ripped away, not just in front of me but in front of everyone who mattered to her. So here's what I did. I still had the bag of soup from that night, the thermos, the flowers, even the unopened ginger tea. I set it on the table in my apartment and photographed it, right next to the messages she'd sent me about being too sick to move. Then I sent those photos, along with a calm little caption, to the 3 guys who'd been there. Next time you're playing games with her, just know this is what she told me she was doing. You wouldn't believe how fast they turned on her. Each of them thought they were in on some joke, some fun, none of them realized they were pawns in the same lie, that she had been weaving different stories for each of them. Within hours the group cracked. One guy blocked her, another sent me a message apologizing. The third actually called me drunk and ashamed, saying, "Man, I didn't know she had someone. I wouldn't have touched her if I knew." That was step 1. Let her lose her fun little game crew. Step 2 was the public truth. Not revenge porn. Not anything cruel like that. Just the truth. Delivered with precision. At a party we were both invited to, I showed up with nothing but calm in my demeanor, and those same photos in my phone. She walked in, trying to pretend nothing had happened, trying to smile at me like we were still out. But when her friends asked how she was doing since she'd been sick, I simply pulled up the picture of the soup beside her text, showed it, said nothing. The silence that followed was brutal, her face drained of color. Someone muttered, "Wait, wasn't that the night you said you were?" And that was all it took. The dominoes fell. She tried to laugh it off, to spin it, but the whispers had already started. People see through the cracks once they know where to look. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't call her names. I just let the evidence speak. And it did, louder than anything I could have shouted. In the days after, her world crumbled. The guys cut her off. Her friends grew distant. Even her own family, who I had been close to, started asking questions she couldn't answer. And me, I didn't gloat. I didn't dance on the ruins. I just moved on. But here's the real twist. Weeks later she showed up at my door again. Eyes red, hands trembling. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't arrogant. She was broken. She begged me to take her back, said she didn't know why she did it, said she needed me, that I was the only one who ever really cared, and for a split second, I felt that old pull. The part of me that remembered the good times, the laughter, the warmth. But then I remembered the doorway, the cards, the smirks, the soup cooling in my hands while she undressed for an audience that wasn't me, and whatever softness I had left hardened into something final. I told her no, calm, simple, no. She cried, cursed, tried to lash out, but it didn't matter, because for the first time I wasn't the fool carrying soup into someone else's game. I was the man who knew better, the man who had seen the mask and refused to let it cover my eyes again. And that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just break you, it teaches you to see patterns, to trust your gut, to never again mistake someone's laughter for love, if it's built on lies. So yes, I walked away alone, but not broken, not anymore. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't screaming, or exposing, or even making them feel small. Sometimes the best revenge is knowing you'll never again open a door and mistake poison for love. And her, she'll never forget that night. Not the game, not the soup, not the look on my face. And I know, deep down, that every laugh she lets out now carries the weight of the one laugh that cost her everything.